All right, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the September 2020 meeting of the Philipstown Planning Board. Thank you for letting us take our August recess and so many people to greet us after our hiatus. We hardly feel like we haven't seen you in a while, so it's nice to see you all. Relatively short order of business tonight, important topics, but a short order of business. Roll call, please, Cheryl.
Kim Connor.
Here.
Dennis Gagnon.
Here.
Peter Lewis.
Here.
Laura O'Connell is not here. Neil Toman.
Here.
Heidi Wendell.
Here.
Neil Zuckerman.
Here. It's good to see you all, too. Let's do a couple of perfunctory motions. Approval of the minutes for June, please. Can a motion approve them?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Any comments, deletions, corrections? None? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions. July, a motion for the July minutes.
I'll make that one.
Okay, Peter, number 2.
I'll second.
And Neil, all right, great. Any comments, corrections, edits, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Oh,
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't there for July.
abstaining. Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Okay. Great. Okay. Cheryl, correspondence, please.
Regarding 3622 Route 9, Cold Spring, New York. Dear Chairman Zuckerman and members of the board, please find the following enclosure in support of the above referenced project. Letter from the New York State DOT dated August 9, 2022. The board may recall the project at 3622 Route 9, which was given conditional site plan and special use approval on October 21st, 2021. Per item 7 of the resolution, the outstanding conditions were the following. A, payment of all outstanding fees. B, receipt of a New York State DOT highway work permit for the entrance work proposed. Per the town supervisor's office, all fees are up to date, which addresses A above. Regarding B, the New York State DOT has a new 3-phase approval system. Conceptual approval, design approval, and issuance of permit. The project has received the enclosed letter indicating the New York State's DOT design approval for the entrance design, which means that the New York State DOT does not have any more technical comments on the design and is ready to issue the permit. The only remaining step prior to issuance of the actual permit is to provide the clerical information to the New York State DOT regarding the contractor and their insurance coverage. At this time, the applicant is not prepared to move forward with construction as a potential buyer of the property is preparing an application for amended site plan that will be before the board within the next month or 2. The original applicant and owner and current owner wishes to have the site plan signed to preserve their approval in the event the potential purchase does not go through. The applicant is requesting that the design approval letter provided by the New York State DOT be sufficient to satisfy this condition and that the site plans be signed prior to the October 21st expiration. Should you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact our office, Insite Engineering, John M. Watson, P.E.
Ron, any comments on this?
Yeah, the approval resolution has a very typical condition of approval that requires receipt of the DOT highway work permit. That's typically what the board does for any projects along the Route 9 corridor. In this instance, though, the town is also aware, and the applicant describes, that there'll be another application filed on the same property. The owner is negotiating with another applicant to modify the site plan to address the new applicant's requirements for the site. So in this instance, they're asking that, and in lieu of receipt of the DOT permit, that the planning board accept the DOT approval letter that acknowledges that a permit will be issued based on the design conditions. We really have no objection to that, recognizing that there'll be an impending application to modify this approval anyway. However, since the planning board did adopt a formal resolution, you would have to amend your resolution. And if you wished, I could modify that and submit an amended resolution for your formal action at the October meeting.
Okay, Steve?
Ron's absolutely correct. I think you could probably, if you wanted to, just adopt a resolution waiving that condition and putting instead the DOT approval letter that they're talking about, but it's just as clean to do an amended resolution the way Ron says.
Folks, views, board members? No strong opinions?
Is there like a big time difference between an amended resolution and?
No, it's just
one
instead of having a
meeting?
resolution saying we amend the prior resolution to change the condition from saying they had to have DOT approval to say that it's, what is it, Ron?
They accept the DOT letter that indicates that their acceptance of
Yeah,
the
and
design.
instead of that, he'd just redo the whole resolution and you'd readopt it. But you just change one line in it, it's really not a
Right.
big deal, it's just procedurally there's different ways to do it.
Yeah? So let's just do that for the next meeting, please. Since they're selling it anyway, it sounds like there's the time, it's not a time pressured issue. All right, so I think we need a vote on that, yes? Get a motion to amend the approval? Oh, nope.
What you want to do is have Ron prepared for the next meeting and then adopt it. Just direct him to prepare the resolution for the next meeting.
Is that a
Do
vote?
we have to make a motion for that? or-
Well, he'll do it either way, but if you want to do a formal resolution, you absolutely can do that. That's what we've done in the past, Neil. We've always,
So I'll make a
Motion to have
motion
it.
that we have Ron prepare
Second.
and amended.
Second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions. All right, thank you, Cheryl. All right, we're going to conduct the public hearing, which I assume is most of the audience here is prepared to participate in that to some extent. Cheryl, would you read the public hearing?
The Planning Board of the Town of Philipstown, New York will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 15th, 2022, starting at 7:30 PM at the Philipstown Town Hall, 238 Main Street, Cold Spring, New York, to consider the following application: Kingsley Tree and Landscaping, Old Albany Post Road, Cold Spring, New York, tax map number 17.172.2. Major project. The applicant proposes to construct a new 3,200 square feet, excuse me, 80 feet by 40 feet, two-story mixed-use structure with the first floor comprising of a 4-bay garage and two two-bedroom apartments above. Site improvements will include a new well and SSTS. The garage will be utilized for office of their tree and landscape businesses.
All right, well, let's have the applicant present the situation, including any recent changes or material shared, and then we'll open up to the public for comments. And I guess we'll go up here. Celia, we'll have him come. Okay, fine. All right, Jason, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Jason Snyder with Beatty and Watson, representing the applicants Ian Kingsley and Forrest Kingsley. We have a 4.5 acre parcel in the town's office, commercial, industrial, mixed use zoning district. It's largely, it's undeveloped, heavily wooded. It's just north of the Countryside Motel, is to the south. It's on Old Albany Post Road North, just across from Mountain Brook Drive. It also has frontage along Route 9. It's bisected by Clove Creek, generally bisected, and there's wetlands in the central portion. So the development is all on the west side of Clove Creek, on the east side of Old Albany Post. We have a 3,200 square foot mixed use structure proposed, a 4-bay garage on the ground floor, which will be used for two separate service-based businesses owned by the owners of the property, with two bedroom apartments on the second floor. We have parking for 3 parking spaces for the 2 apartments and 6 proposed parking spaces for the businesses. We have Board of Health approval for the septic system, and approved well. And that's about it. We got, there's no stormwater permits required, there's no wetland permits required. We do have some stormwater proposed for infiltration of the water quality volume, just as a general practice.
Is that it, Jason?
That's about it.
Yeah, don't tell a story if there's no story to tell. You don't have to fill a time slot. This is not a half-hour sitcom. Okay. All right, well, if there's nothing else, board members, questions on this, and then we'll go to the public.
Jason, we talked last time about changing the roof line. I just wanted to acknowledge that, okay, this is the second iteration of this set of drawings. We've actually, the applicant has made the adjustments that we asked, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, we modified the roof line, and it actually decreased the overall height of the structure by 2.5, 3 feet with the with the gable in the
The
front.
idea was to make it less imposing as you're coming down the
Correct,
opposite road.
but yes.
I
Yep.
just wanted to go over that again.
So I have a couple of questions. So on the EAF, on page 5, D2D, it says, will the proposed action generate liquid wastes? And although there's something marked below, it's not marked yes or no there, so that just would be, I assume the answer to that is yes.
D2.
So it's page 5 down toward the bottom, small d.
Nature of liquid waste to be generated.
Just right, there's a line across the page, and then there's a D, and it says, will the proposed action generate liquid wastes? And it's yes or no, and there's just nothing checked.
Right. Is that, yeah, I'll check that box.
Check it, yes, that's what I
Yep.
assumed. Okay. And then page 11, E2I, down at the bottom, is the project site in a designated floodway and a 100-year floodplain, a 500-year floodplain? And I just want to ask, do we have any, this is a question really for Ron, do we have any obligation to restrict building in a designated floodway?
Actually, that matter actually comes before the building department at the time building permit applications are filed. You have a flood damage protection law that must be addressed, and it's done at the building permit stage.
Okay, so that's just between the applicant and their insurance
Right,
company and the
here it's
building
just to
inspector?
acknowledge whether there's a matter that has to be addressed.
Okay,
We do have the 100-foot floodplain boundary on the, delineated on the map.
yeah, no, it just says, I'm just understanding.
I mean, do you want clarification that we're not developing in that?
Right.
On the
No,
EAF?
because it's, well, yeah, that's probably, if the whole project is not in it,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
If the whole project were in a designated floodway, then that, but I'm just understanding who's in charge of worrying about that procedurally.
The issue comes about, when you answer the EAF, it relates to the entire property. So they're acknowledging that the property is encumbered by it.
Okay,
The proposed development will not be.
okay. Page 12, we identify that they're long-eared bat and timber rattlers. What's our obligation related to rattlers and bats? It's no tree clearing
Right, there's
after
specific,
November.
there's specific DEC limitations and guidelines that apply. And through previous technical correspondence that I've had with the board and the applicant, they've now identified those guidelines on the site plan drawings that are here for the public hearing tonight. So They have submitted revised plans, they've submitted the revised EAF that was requested, and they've also submitted the revised architecturals that were discussed by Mr. Tillman earlier.
Okay.
So the tree clearing will be restricted to the time period after November 1st to the end of March. The same is true for it's the same time period for the rattlesnakes, but for ground disturbance. So basically, the site will have to be developed in the wintertime, or during the fall and spring.
Okay, good. And then the last thing is on the site improvement layout plan drawing. I'm just curious why there doesn't have to be any prep for the reserve septic.
Because there's no fill required.
Okay,
We got full depth test holes, so we don't have to clear for so we don't, if we had to install, if you need to install fill, then you need to prepare that area in advance. There's no fill required for either the primary or the reserve, so we don't need to prep the area.
great. Okay, thank you.
This may well have been asked and answered, but the depth of the buffer, the tree buffer between the old Albany Post Road and the parking lot, can you tell me about that?
So you're talking about the area that we're maintaining and
Just
not,
where your pen is, yeah.
and not disturbing. So we got we kept it at it's about a 25-foot strip.
Okay, because I drove by it today, and it's quite a tangle and seems quite thick. And,
Hence why Heidi was the only one to walk in the woods that day.
Right. I mean, this isn't the. We try to maintain as much of a buffer as we could. So unlike this isn't in the SPO. So in the SPO, you have that 50-foot required buffer. So I mean, we just did as much as we could here.
Thank you.
Others? No? Okay, so Jason, we're gonna have the members of the public come up. So just a couple ground rules. You can talk for as long as you want, but please stay on topic. Be mindful that we received a letter. I assume some of you are the signatories to the letter we received. We have all read your letter, so there's no need to reread it, nor for everyone to read the same thing to us each time. I promise you we read it. We promise you we'll listen to you. So let's be on point, and absolutely no ad hominem attacks, meaning uncalled for, unnecessary attacks. I'm assuming everyone's going to be kind and above board as we're all neighborly, but I just want to be mindful of that. So Cheryl's going to read off those who signed in. If you did not sign in, we'll get to you after, and you'll just raise your hand at that point. So please come up, state your name, where you live, and go tell your point of view on this project, please. So Cheryl, you want to read the names, please?
Sure. Camille Papanou? Yeah, you don't have to come up.
You don't. It's not an obligation, Camille. So
Jesse Croft? Jesse? Okay. Rebecca? Did you want to speak?
Well, actually, I started
Do you want to? Okay.
I don't know why they didn't nominate me,
we don't know who they is. So why don't you just come up, say your name, where you live, and tell your piece.
Well, my name is Dennis Maldonado. I've been a resident here for 22 years, property owner for about 25 years. I live at 5 Mountain Brook Drive, Cold Spring, New York. First time I ever attended one of these, so please be patient with me. I don't have a problem with this. I met one of the Kingsley boys. He's a gentleman, and I understand that they want to expand on their business, which is great. The only problem that myself and many of my neighbors have is this driveway. We understand that, well, the driveway, being on the corner here, we have a bus stop that stops here, 4 times a day. And if the kid goes to a different district, like we had a neighbor that did, it's 6 times a day. Now, I've been driving all my life. I'm a retired New York City detective. 4-way intersections, atrocious. Look at what we're happening now by the gas station on Fishkill Road, how many accidents we're having there. This summer, when they closed down part of Route 9, this was like a highway. I must have gotten into, almost into 4 or 5 accidents. You know, we couldn't walk down the street anymore because people were zooming by. Thank God the sheriff's department, they would put a car there every now and then. It was just zooming back and forth, stopping people and issuing summonses. But it's a dangerous situation. Now we're gonna have a commercial/residence there, which is fine. The only thing is that now we're gonna have people, you know, trucks coming in and out of that intersection, employees coming in, residents, whoever, you know, is gonna live there, customers, whatever the situation is, you know, we're gonna have coming in and out. I've driven times that I make a right turn, I'm not really paying attention, I get close to an accident, you know? Now, if one of these trucks pulling a chipper or something happens to make a right turn, and it happens to anybody, it could happen to anybody. You make a right turn, and there's a kid on a skateboard there, God forbid we should lose one of our children. And I mean ours, like all of ours, because I know this town, we're very tight. We lose one of our children because we put a driveway on a 4-way, make a 4-way intersection out of a 3-way intersection. So what we're proposing is, if we can move this driveway, I know you guys had a plan prior to this, I believe it was the May plan, where the parking was this way, coming out this way, and, you know, that would be great if you gotta keep this one. If you could move that driveway just about 250 feet down. Yeah, I stood there, you have line of view on both sides of Mountain Brook Drive. It's way back here. There's a mountain there where you won't, will buffer the noise of the trucks coming in and out, okay? This is a community where everybody build their homes. It's a beautiful, peaceful community, you know? I just think that, you know, it's a shame that we're gonna destroy it with just having commercial trucks at the entrance of that community. If we could just, you know, help us out, just move the driveway down about 250 feet, you know, you get great line of sight on both sides of the road. And I don't think it's much to ask. And that's all I gotta say. And then, by the way, that's all my community there. I got copies of the petition if you guys want to sign. If you guys...
We actually have, we have copies in front of us already, yeah. Well, you did a good job for your first time out. Well done. We welcome you back for other meetings. Do you want to just read off the names? Anyone else want to speak? Please.
Hi, that's my husband. My name is Rebecca Maldonado, and we're proud owners of 5 Mountain Brook Drive, and our house is catty-corner to this intersection that they're planning to build this new driveway. And I just wanted to say, when we first found out, my first reaction that they were going to build there, I was thrilled. A new community, you know, a new residential home, a new family. Then I was very concerned when I found out it was a mixed-use building that was going up. Then I became extremely concerned when I found out the driveway was here. So we're pleading, please reconsider to put this driveway away from this purely residential drive. This is a cul-de-sac, dead end, and all the houses there are residential. There's no commercial business on this road. So as me personally, owner of this property, please reconsider, and I'm also speaking on behalf of this petition, which was a consensus of all the neighbors on both roads. And these were the ideas, we listed ideas of what we would be happy with, but please, I think it's not unreasonable to request for this driveway to be moved from this intersection and creating a 4-way intersection at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheryl, you want to read the names, please?
Dennis Ratner. Nancy Vanderwerf?
Do you want to speak? No?
No.
No? Okay.
Okay. Mr. Salcedo? Yes. Hello.
Well, good evening. I am Juan Carlos Salcedo. I'm a resident of Philipstown for a little bit over 40 years, and I live right on Old Albany Post Road. First of all, I'm pretty excited that a new generation of citizens of Philipstown has decided to keep their business here and to live in the community. That is very hard to do. Most of us had to live here, couldn't afford it, had to go and work in the city or work somewhere else. So that is worth a lot of consideration in my view. I also have some concerns about the safety because I don't think that's an ideal place. And if that can be modified, I think will make everybody happy, my neighbors and everybody else. And thirdly, I don't want to take any more of your valuable time. I thank you all for the hard work you do. In years past, I used to follow this committee quite a bit, and there's a lot of reading, a lot of packages. So I won't take any more of your time. Thank you very much for all you do, and thank you for all of us, all of you, to come to this meeting. It's important to have community involvement in all those issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Dwyer?
Yeah, I'm just to reiterate what everybody's saying, and thanks for listening. Again, yeah, it's my kids are mainly getting on the bus here, so for me, I know how the bus comes up and down there sometimes, and it's not, and they sometimes come the opposite way, depending on coming in, so they'll be turning actually right there as well. So yeah, if you can consider moving this to this side, as Dennis said, there is plenty of clearance. Currently, for their current business, like they're turning in and out off of that turn, which is a lot more dangerous than turning in and out of if they're further up this road on this side. So if you can really consider moving this for the safety of my kids and the neighbors, because we have an excellent neighborhood here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Betsy Calhoun? No. Okay. Okay. Mrs. Salcedo? Okay. Roderick Farmer?
I'd like to say that I'm very happy that the Kingsleys have bought this property because they're really good people and they are going to respect the environment. The buffer is going to be adequate because it's going to protect them as much as it's going to protect the rest of us. I do agree with the that the driveway should be moved because that's also a bus stop for the children. And that's all I have to say. Good luck, Lou.
Thank you, sir.
Francis Ellis?
Good evening. My name is Francis Ellis, and lived in this community off and on for over 50 years. And I support this project. I think it's good. It's going to improve that lot, which has been vacant ever since I've been around, and add to the tax base. The only thing I could say about changing the driveway is that every iteration, and this is at least the fourth iteration of this, right? Takes up time, takes up money, adds to the cost of the project, and one of the reasons that it is so hard to remain in the community is that the scrutiny of new projects is just comprehensive. So if this can be done in a relatively inexpensive way, then I am for it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
That's all I have on this
That's
item.
it. Anyone else want to speak, sir? Come on up.
I live on the street as well, and Craig Machesky. I live at 60 Old Albany Post Road. This is me here, all of this. This land was vacant because I sold it. So this land was part of this home since 1780. So that's why it's been so dormant. The Kingsleys are absolutely wonderful people. They are so respectful of everything. There's a few points that just got missed in this. The school bus does a 3-point turn here, which could cause a problem for trucks coming and going. People having visual of where children are, the school buses, and cars coming and going. The part that I'm concerned about for Mr. Dennis and his family is that this is his home right here. As you can see, it is dark outside now, and in a few more weeks, it will be dark at 4 o'clock, as we all know. And all of these headlights will be going directly into his house all day, going in and in and in. And his house faces directly to this driveway here. I know you may have missed that, but when I pulled out of my driveway this evening, stopped and looked at this, I thought, I wonder if Dennis thought about how many headlights will be going right into his house. What you have here in this green is an enormous rock barrier. These trucks leaving here will actually affect nobody at all. This is where I raise livestock and play with my dog. I will have all of these trucks as well, all of these headlights coming into my property. If this was moved, as it's saying, this may, I don't know, but this may actually be a less expensive amount of asphalt to put. It actually may be cheaper for them. I don't know, but this might be less expensive. I am, just like my neighbors, concerned about all of these points. I don't want to say this, but I must in the goodness of my heart. I know there is a family of bobcats living back here. I see them every morning. There's also an enormous family of turkeys who live here because the turkeys look at my chickens and my chickens look at the turkeys every day. Yes, this community right here is stuck between a residential and a commercial zoned area. And we are asking you, if you haven't realized, we are pleading with you to move this driveway to help us remain somewhat of a residential community in the midst of businesses. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ma'am, please.
My name is Vivian Berry. I live at 107 Old Albany Post Road North, at the north end of the road. This is an exceptional community. We all came together many years ago when there was a construction company that wanted to go in across the street from me, and we all kind of got together and we said, wait a minute, is this the best thing that could happen to this property? And we were successful in that we got the company to petition the state to get a cut-in on Route 9 instead of a cut-in on Old Albany Post Road North. And that was, I don't know how many years ago, almost 20 maybe at this point. And since then, the company has certainly grown. There's a lot of activity that's happening on that property right across from my house. Sometimes 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays, Sundays, I hear machinery running. So I started thinking about this project that the Kingsleys want to do, and I think we have to plan for not just today and tomorrow, but for 20 years, 30 years. What is this community really going to look like? And luckily, 20 years ago, when we got the cut-in into Route 9 approved, our neighborhood and our area was saved from all that extra traffic that would have been coming through all this time. So in a way, that helps the Kingsleys get their project going because we have less traffic on the road because of what we did so many years ago. But also, it's something for you to think about in terms of let's really think smartly about how we have this industrial corridor going up Route 9 and how we can service new businesses and residents when they're coming together like this. And I totally trust the Kingsleys. I know their mom, Rita Jo Riley, raised 2 wonderful boys. She was totally of the earth. She didn't believe in landscaping. She believed in gardening and working with the land. And I know she instilled those values in her 2 boys. And I know they'll carry that through, and they will respect the land, and they are probably going to be the best stewards of that property we could ever imagine to have. So I support the process and a new business, but I also want to think ahead and think about, can we as a community continue to live in a beautiful place with the Fishkill Range and Schofield Ridge? I mean, it's stunning. I mean, I go away and I come back and I'm always grateful that I live here. So can we strike some sort of balance where industry and residents can live in harmony and we can support one another and be safe? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Okay, motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, abstentions. Okay, so public hearing's closed. I think at this point, Ron or Steve, anything you want to say before I?
Yeah, you've heard many members of the public raise concern over the location of the driveway. It's obviously a town road. Recognizing the concerns of the community, I'm wondering if the board wishes to make any referral to the town highway superintendent, who may wish to offer an opinion in terms of his desirability as to where the access should be placed along the town roadway.
That's a good idea. Thoughts? No? Thoughts?
What would the highway superintendent do?
I don't know, other than, as Ron said, offer an opinion about whether that made sense, but
I've never, in the time I've been on the board, I've never heard them offer any helpful opinions. I may be mistaken, but I don't know. I think we should consider it ourselves.
Well, in regard to the highway superintendent, the point of referring it to him would be to find out if he feels that lower access is more suitable for this development than the upper access proposed as now. You might want to inquire of the applicant if he's willing to move the access, and that would obviate the issue altogether. If he's not, then you're going to want to know what the highway superintendent thinks about this.
Other board members on this topic? Highway superintendent, oh, please.
I mean, couldn't we hear from like Glenn and Jason about what that would entail, or maybe even Lou?
Well, I don't want to call him, I don't want to put him on the spot to have.
No, but I mean, maybe at a subsequent meeting, or
That would certainly be that's where I was going to go at the end of this part of the conversation, which is to suggest to the applicant to take the next few weeks to consider it, and then we'll come back to it in the next meeting. But on this point that Ron suggests, let me just build on that. Anyone else interested in getting an opinion from our town highway superintendent?
I think it would make sense to at least reach out to them to see if there's any problems that we're not foreseeing or the public's not foreseeing that might affect, road maintenance, line of sight, things like that.
We have an endorsement from my colleague to my right. Others?
Only if it's expeditious. I've been having some to and fro with the folks in the highway department, and it's been taking some time. So
One at a time, please. One at a time. All right, a lot of to and fro. Fair. All right. Well, let's take a motion there. Let's refer to the highway department for an opinion. Get a motion for that, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second.
I'll second that. I also, as Steve suggested, we could, ask.
We certainly will in a second.
Yeah, okay.
In a second.
I don't know if we were going there or not.
As I said, we're going to go there in a moment. Yeah, that's right. I just don't want to. All right. So we're going to let's refer it to the highway department for an opinion. I don't want to put Jason or your clients on the spot here, but if you'd like to comment, you're more than welcome to. If you'd like to take it back and think about it and come back next month, that would also be perfectly acceptable. I feel like I'm watching a negotiation live. Very.
Yeah, I mean.
Do you want to come? You got to come up here, buddy.
I think if you can, we'll discuss it this upcoming week. if you could, it is going to be a little bit more site development, I can tell you that, with regard to grading and drainage at this location. I don't think it'll affect this buffer too much, and in fact, it'll, reconnect this part in here probably.
Jason, I don't want to make you feel like you have to provide a professional opinion on
But
the spot.
if you could instruct Ron to prepare to have a
We're not going to do that. I mean, the volume of the public comment to then short-circuit it by asking them to provide resolution on something that may change is probably not the right process. So I appreciate you asking that. You've been trained well. Young
Okay.
Padawan learner, you've learned it well, but we're not going to do that tonight.
Okay.
But if you, I don't want to put you in the spot to answer it, so why don't you guys take that feedback?
Another month isn't gonna be the end of the world, so,
No.
they can't do anything until November anyway, so, we'll discuss it.
Thank you. To the Kingsleys, thank you for listening to the public. As you know, the purpose of this board is to balance community rights and property rights. And so for you to give a thought to that very clearly articulated, very narrow, I think, recommendation, it would be well appreciated by the community. All right, so without further ado, we'll move on then. So
Did we finish that?
vote? I thought we did vote on it.
Yeah,
I think we voted on
I
it.
heard a harumph, I didn't hear like.
A harumph? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions. Okay, no harumphs. I feel like I'm in, Blazing Saddles. It's hilarious. Harumph. Okay, let's move on. Old business, the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival. We're going to be discussing the scope document, the draft scope document. We're going to do a few things. Thank you, members of the public, for coming. A few things. So first, I'm going to open the floor. No, we'll wait till all the movement happens. I don't know if you can. Cecilia's the engineer of records, so I don't think so. Oh, all right, it's movable, fine. Wherever you'd like it. What are you eating there? No, what are you eating? The Reese's one, the flattened Reese's? The Snickers? It's too industrial tasting. It feels like it was made by a machine, which of course it was. I'm surprised you're not a gourmet chocolate person. Really? You like them? No. All right. What are you? Nuts. You're not. Oh, nuts. You don't like them. Oh, just back to your theater point. Our routine in Madeline, we go get Twizzlers at the nearby Walgreens, Duane Reade, CVS, and then it's all gone before the damn thing starts. All right, members of the public, if you can move out. Cecilia, could you ask this group to start moving out? Thank you. It's like we're having a block party here in the hallway. Who brought the casserole? Oh.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, wait. Oh, wait. What is that? What is that button?
That's the fire department.
You're not sure what it is?
That's the fire department. I think when they're closed, it opens. Yeah,
Oh, that's hilarious. All right. What'd you say? I can't hear you. Oh, eject, yeah. All right, let's get going here. All right, Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival. Let's do a few things tonight. Jesus. The echo is, talk to the architect. They're not going to hear you saying folks.
I know.
You know, this right.
Maybe I should
It's
call
like,
up.
It's delicious.
Call the police.
all right, settle down. Jeez, all right, thank you. So we'll do a few things tonight. I think what we'll first do is hear from you guys and talk about the project and some changes, which, look, we appreciate you listening to the public, and the things we've read publicly we appreciate in Adam's letter. Then we'll talk about your potential scope document. I'd like to hear any board comments on that. Then we'll come to Aaron briefly from AKRF just to opine on the comparison between what you've produced and what his recollection and recitation of what we had said is. And then finally, we'll move to schedule the scoping session, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, so floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good to see you all again. Pete Daniel Hollis of Hollis, Laidlaw, and Simon, Land Use Counsel for the project. I'm joined by Adam Stollerow of Sive Paget Law Firm, who will be up to speak in a minute, who's joined the project team to help guide the project through the scope and the EIS process that we're about to commence. Also, you'll hear tonight from Davis McCallum, our artistic director, who's going to talk about the new design of the project. And then Glenn and Jan Johannesson are both here, technical team, to answer any questions that might arise from any board members. So without taking up too much time, I'll turn it over to Adam. If I might, just talk about the scope document for a minute, and then we'll talk to have Davis give a few minutes, and then open it up to you folks.
Where's Dave?
Right
oh,
there.
right. That's amazing.
Oh, so that was
hiding
right.
in plain sight.
Yeah, he was right.
There was Mr. Burns there. All right, sorry, keep going.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Board. I'm Adam Stollerow from Sive Paget and Roselle. Looking forward to working with the board as it continues its secret review of the project. We submitted our draft scope for this meeting. And in preparing that draft scope, we had very helpful and detailed input from the Planning Board, both in the positive declaration itself and in AKRF memos that were prepared. So, based on that input, we've gotten very specific analyses that should be undertaken in the DEIS, and we know the issues that are before us, and we'll address them through the DEIS. The Shakespeare Festival is concluding a very successful summer. Operating at the Garrison, which has allowed the festival and the team here to collect real-world data on noise and traffic and potential impacts that we'll be able to use in the DEIS. So in a moment, Davis McCallum is going to come up and sort of walk through the new design of the project, but just to clarify what you'll see in the draft scope and in the draft EIS, what we're calling the proposed action is this new design that you'll see. So moving away from this sort of white tent-looking structure to this other open-air theater design that Davis is going to present.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Nice to see you. As Adam said, there are two main changes to the project that are reflected in the submission that you got this month. This is different from what we submitted as part of the EAF process and the secret review. The first is the previously proposed white tensile structure has been replaced by a lower profile open-air theater building that will hug the ground and blend in more harmoniously with the surrounding landscape. The design utilizes a timber-framed roof with horizontal curves that echo the ridge lines behind it, and three sides of the building will be surrounded by year-round vegetative screening. This new design would be the first purpose-built theater in the country to achieve a LEED Platinum designation. That's Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It involves solar panels, rainwater capture to be put through a gray water treatment system, reduced embedded carbon, and other design elements that are proposed to help minimize the environmental impacts and better protect the structure from extreme weather and wear. And many of those design evolutions came from things we heard from the public and things we heard from the board. Secondly, the proposed action eliminates the previously proposed two-way access driveway off of Snake Hill Road and the associated span bridge that we heard about in the public comment. Instead, we're proposing to continue using the existing entrance off of Snake Hill Road for one-way ingress and egress from the property, as has been used throughout HVSF's 2022 season this summer, and for decades before that, serving the former golf course, banquet hall, and restaurant. And this option does eliminate the concerns related to the potential wetland and visual impacts of a proposed new span bridge. So those are the two main changes to the design, and that concludes our presentation. Our project team's here and ready to answer any questions that the board has.
So let me open it to the board for questions, because I think both of those topics are welcome to this board, but obviously engender some potential questions. So any questions about, Kim, please.
So, what's different about the bridge so that it doesn't have to, not the bridge, the existing Snake Hill Road structure? Was the proposal before, when we first started talking about it, before you came up with the span bridge, was it that it was going to have to be widened in order to accommodate two-way traffic, and that was why it was a problem? So if we leave it single, it's not a problem anymore?
I think the issue was that we, to accommodate two-way traffic, there would have to be a tremendous improvement and widening of the bridge, and it was a major construction project. So the solution is to time the direction of the traffic so it's one way in at the beginning and one way out at the end. And other than that, other times it will be more like it is every day of the week today.
And so there was a concern about sight distances that related to why there was a need for this span bridge.
We're working on a sight distance. We've identified some walls that can be taken out, some trees that we can taken out to prove it, and some vegetation that can be taken out, and we're working on that.
And what about lowering the height of the pond, the 4 foot? Is that still part of this plan?
That's an ongoing program that we're dealing with the DEC on. It was lowered a matter of until they get the design for the repair of the outfall of the dam fully designed. It's not something I know much about, but Tectonic has recommended that in order to not put more stress on that structure than need be, basically because the outfall structure has failed. The water outfall.
Okay, that's it for me for the moment.
Others? Heidi?
Has the temp been full this summer? Do you expect that there might be more traffic in the future, or do you think that what's happened this summer is indicative of what's going to happen in the future?
I think that's right. I mean, there's nothing extraordinary about this summer. And so unlike where we were last year as part of the EAF process, we now have 75 performances worth of audiences, and John Canning, traffic engineer you know well, has been out on site twice measuring number of cars, and we've done that study this year.
Others? Peter?
The photograph could be photographed. Does this include the rehearsal hall as well, which is a fairly significant square footage?
No, that is the open air theater and the back of house structure, which is a place for actors to change costumes and stage managers.
So that would be behind this?
That's actually represented on that, just to the right, if you're looking at the structure, yeah. It's kind of tucked underneath and to the side.
Okay. I have just a couple more questions. Sometime back there was in this group, this area, not including the HHLT properties off to the north and off to the west, there was something called a challenge parcel. What's happened to that?
That's no longer relevant. That was part of the very first application we made to you, when there was still a proposal for the continuance of 9 holes of golf, and that's no longer relevant to the application.
Okay, so that's no longer. And are we going to have a sense of what's going to be? I'm sorry if you haven't heard me. Are we going to have a sense of what HHLT is going to be doing? Maybe around the 17-acre parcel that's part of this group, or with the greater 60 additional acres that they have, will HHLT be able to let us know what they're going to be doing with that?
Well, as far as I know, and I only know as a member of this group, I am on the board of HHLT, but they kick me out whenever they talk about Shakespeare or anything else that I'm involved in. So I got the record for recusals. But at any rate, as far as I know, the plan for the 17 acres adjacent, that's part of this overall major parcel, is basically to do nothing except leave it fallow and leave it corrected.
It's all wooded right now.
Right.
So they're just
It's
gonna
all
leave it
wooded,
like
it's
that.
going to stay wooded. We've been very careful to keep the design outside of it so it wouldn't threaten it. I don't know much about, I don't know much about the other acres across the street across Snake Hill Road.
They seem to be out of this. Okay, thank you.
Are others?
Can I just adjust Peter's point one more?
Yeah, of course.
Which is, HHLT came to Shakespeare and said that they wanted that 17 acres that immediately abuts Phillips Brook, because they wanted to be the stewards of that for making sure that the brook was protected, and Shakespeare's entered into an agreement with HHLT to transfer that acreage to them after Chris Davis makes the proposed transfer to Shakespeare.
So Peter, I was just asking Steve, I wonder if it's not inappropriate to ask HHLT what they are doing with that property, because they have not come before us, and I'm not suggesting that be a command performance, but it seems like a relevant question you're asking, and it's not an insignificant amount of land. Steve, you wanted to further on that?
Well, it's a subdivision of this property, and some of the property, it's been specifically referenced, is going to be going to HHLT. It's certainly a consideration as far as SECR goes in terms of further development. You know, you have to look at the combined development of the property. I don't know that you need to have them show up and make a presentation, but some statement as to what they have in mind would be appropriate.
Other thoughts on that one? I don't feel it strongly. I don't know if others think about that. Heidi?
I mean, it's just not going to be developed, though. It's HHLT. They're going to preserve it. I think that's bureaucratic to ask them to come, unless they want to. If they want to, then that's great, but otherwise, I just don't see how that's important.
Well, there's been a transition. I've spent a lot of time now north of Snake Hill, Phillipsburg intersection. You know, beautiful, spectacular grass, the wild grass growing, but it was also mowed. So that implies to me that they have an idea of what they want to do with that. They mow the grass, not mow the grass. Do some wild plantings. That fairway below where Chris's house would be must have been seeded with the wildflowers, the black-eyed Susans, to take a look at, because it was also spectacular. I didn't know if they had plans to do that, and I'm just fascinated to know about it, because I know that, you know, I believe that they're going to do a wonderful job.
Well, that's, I guess, why I'm saying, I mean, if they would like to make a presentation, but I don't think we should make them do so,
I don't think we have a means to make anyone do anything. Kim, just hold on. Finish point.
What?
You're done?
Yeah.
All right, Kim, go ahead.
So I agree with Heidi. I mean, this is the, you know, like, they're not building anything. You know, if they do something, they'll file for a permit, you know, and, you know, nobody has to have a permit to plant anything or, you know, so it doesn't, it's not really, I feel like it's not really our business until they do something that requires them to come before us or the building inspector or something like that. I'm sure that Katrina Schindeldecker would be happy to write a memo letting us know what they plan to do if we asked her to do that, you know, but I think we're overreaching.
Anyone else on this topic?
Because it's not public land. You know, what we have to remember about all this is that this is private land, and so the public doesn't have access to it unless HHLT decides to give it. So that's just my 2 cents.
Anyone else on this topic?
I agree with Kim and Heidi regarding.
Peter, you may just want to call Katrina yourself and ask her.
It's exciting. It's exciting what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I'm all for it, believe me. I think it's great, you know. I'm not in any way, you know, coming down. I'm curious.
All right, well,
All curiosity.
we look forward to hearing the results of your call.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on the presentation we just heard from Davis? No? All right, scope.
So,
You want to talk about it?
if there are questions from the
Well,
board about it,
I think for the purposes of this camera, it may not be the world's worst thing to explain to the public, just the outline of what you're proposing the scope is. If you don't want to, that's fine, but I think for the
Sure. So
folks at home.
All right. So as I was mentioning before, we got specific input from the board about, and that's the intention of the DEIS scoping process, is to narrow the issues that are going to be included in the EIS to streamline the process a bit, because this project has been before the board for a while through the full EAF process, and a number of studies were done that this board decided were sufficient for some of the issue areas that come up through SECRA. So the scope itself, in terms of what is going to be presented, the draft EIS will look at vegetation and wildlife, wetlands and watercourses, utilities, including water, sewer, and energy, traffic, transportation, and parking, visual resources and community character, noise, human health. So each of those issue areas will be explored both for the proposed action and for the alternatives to the proposed action, which are, we've retained as alternatives the prior design, which was the tensile structure, and the bridge, the two-way bridge, just for the purpose of comparison. We're no longer advancing those as what we want to do, but we've done a lot of work studying those, and I think it makes sense to keep them in the EIS for that reason. And then the SECRA also requires that we study a no-action alternative, which is not the same as a no-build alternative, because SECRA requires that we look at what would happen to the land in the reasonably foreseeable future without the project. And in this case, if the project did not go forward, the land would be sold. And so what we're using as the no-action alternative is what would be allowed under the current zoning, which is the preservation of the existing use as a wedding banquet center and restaurant, and the addition of a 40-room hotel and destination spa.
I'm going to ask Aaron just to opine about the comparison between the memo that you put together, which was effectively a distillation of this board's commentary at the POS deck, and the applicant's proposed scope.
Yep. So thank you. After the July meeting, you instructed me to put together a memo that kind of to give the board and the applicant just kind of a punch list of these are the major things the scope should cover. I prepared that in August, circulated it. I think you sent it around to the board members. I know you guys are all off, but it was still around. The applicant got it shortly after everyone had a chance to look, and there was no major comments from the board, so the applicant got it. Draft scope that they submitted, I went through each area, I compared it to that memo. They did actually incorporate verbatim everything that we wanted to have in there. So I think at this point it serves as a good draft scope. That's really what it's going to serve as. It's a draft. You call it a draft, you set a scoping hearing, and you work towards finalizing it once you have input from the public and you have input from the involved agencies, from us. We might have a couple of things to add between now and the end of the scoping comment period, but like I said, they are hitting on all the issues that we brought up. They're doing a 72-hour pump test for the water, which was something that the public had asked them to do. They are going to redo the visual simulations with, I think they're going to actually take new photographs in the winter. Instead of using Google Earth images, they're going to go out there and take the leaf-off photos. You've heard from them about changing the plan. They're going to have the tent and the old access from Snake Hill as alternatives now. They're doing wildlife cameras to address the issue of the nocturnal wildlife during shows and weddings. So I think they've been very responsive to what the public and the board has laid out.
Okay. Board members, any comments on the proposed scoping document as drafted by the applicant? None? You look like you want to say something, but you...
I was just going to say, I think it's very comprehensive.
Oh, all right. Got it, okay. All right, good. All right, well, then, nothing from the board. Steve, next steps?
Well, the next steps are within 60 days of receipt of the draft scope. The board is required to adopt its scope, called the final scope or the scope. If you don't do that, then the draft scope can be used. I have some concerns about the timeline. This was submitted, I think, the first. We want to consider today upon receipt of it the first day. I anticipate, and it's up to the board, of course, that you'll hold your scoping session at your October meeting and then be in a position to adopt the scope at your November meeting. It would be helpful, because I'm not sure exactly where the 60 days go, if the applicant could consent to those timelines, just to make sure there's no issues there.
Secret allows us to work together on consent to extend that 60-day period, and we'd be happy to do that.
Good, thank you.
So if that's the case, then I would suggest that the board adopt a resolution setting the scope session for its next meeting, and Ron and AKRF and I will see to it there's circulation and publication. It's in a notice to the ENB, which we'll take care of, but between now and then.
So since it's been many years since we've had a scoping session, and there are, at least Heidi, I think, was not on the board at the time we last had one, could you just give us the parameters of a scoping session, please?
Scoping session is very much so like a public hearing. You're going to publish and post and circulate to involved agencies the draft scope. People will be able to come up and comment on the items that are listed in there and whether they feel that they're adequately represent the items that you identified to be looked at in the POS deck or not. Things like, well, gee, you have 3 alternatives listed, we think this other alternative should be listed, or we think the alternatives aren't appropriately identified. It could be anything, but I mean something in the draft scope. And it's not whether they like the project or not, it's on the adequacy of the draft scope. And you accept comments on it, and then when you're done, you close it, and the board will determine if it wants to make changes to the draft scope or not, and then you'll adopt it, and that'll be the scope.
How do we ensure we narrowly charge the public, to use a phrase, with that task, meaning to comment solely on analytical questions they'd like addressed as opposed to a regurgitation of previous points made?
Well, I mean, it's a balancing act, Neil. I mean, on the one hand, you want people to have their say, and on the other hand, you want to keep the meeting focused and moving. So, I've recommended in the past having time limits on this. I know the board's resisted that, but if you decide you don't want to go that way, then just keep a close watch on what people are saying. If it's repetitive or outside the bounds of what the meeting's about, you're just going to have to call them to task.
We had time limits for HHR.
We did.
And I don't think it would be unfair. We had 9 hours of public hearings already. I don't think it's unfair to have time limits.
I think this is a narrowly construed meeting, and I think the public has had ample opportunity to comment on their viewpoints of the overall project. So I don't have a problem having time limits of 2 or 3 minutes, which at the MTA we do 2 minutes. I do recall at the HHR we had a fairly, I think I was the timekeeper at one point, it was a fairly long, I can't remember, it was 5.
It was 3.
It was 3? I have no problem doing that. Folks down the hall here? Thoughts? Yeah, 3?
Yeah.
3, good? 3?
I think if you give them notice ahead of time, that it's going to be 3, and prepare your statements accordingly.
I can prepare a memo between now and the meeting with guidelines that are good to follow for how to conduct a scoping hearing. We did it for HHR, it worked well.
I'm less worried about you giving a memo for guidance, I'm not sure that's necessary. It's more about the public knowing when they come here that they shouldn't bring a 50-page memo to read out loud.
It's
So
really-
Cheryl, I think for any advertising we do in either the 2 or both the newspapers, I think clarifying that there's a 3-minute time limit will be useful. And we probably should have it outside on some sign, and I'll certainly state it, obviously, as we start. So can I have a motion to schedule?
I have one more question. So is there a signage requirement for the scoping session, just like there is for a public hearing?
There's not, but there's a noticing requirement that it appear at least 2 weeks prior to the meeting, so I can work with Cheryl to get that language to be published in the newspaper. And the ENB notice I can take care of, which is the DEC's requirement.
I just want to make sure we don't miss something so that somebody has a gotcha.
There's no question on that one. I think, and thank you for raising that after that was an issue at the library. But I think we also will, given what we've done in the past with large projects, we will advertise that this is a session so the public knows they've been informed. But the time limit will make it, I think, a speedier process. Okay, can I have a motion then? Oh, yes, please.
And can people submit longer submissions in writing?
We read
And we
anything that
obviously
comes.
read those, so.
We read whatever comes. Our mailbox is always open.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear, that
We can
if
certainly
there
offer-
isn't time in 3 minutes, because sometimes people don't get their whole message out in 3 minutes, but we will get the written submission.
I think that's a really good point. Cheryl, let's just make sure in any public communication, we say written comments are also encouraged. Okay, I'm not gonna say it for the third time until everyone lets me say it. May I? Ready? Okay, may I have a motion to schedule the scoping session for our next board meeting, and we'll make it at the top of the hour. It'll be our first order of business, Cheryl. All in favor?
Make that motion.
Yeah, second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstentions, I vote aye. All right, good. Any other, yep, please.
Just for the applicant, a couple of things. So I'm going to send you an email with some language that has to get put into the scope. I think you need to change the date of it to be today's date. And then we'll add, there's a section there where you have scoping session, and you said TBD. We're going to fill that in with the details of the meeting so that the scope itself, when it goes out, because Cheryl's going to mail it out to the involved agencies, it'll serve as a notice to them, too, that there's a scoping hearing and when they can send in written comments by.
Do you want us to change the draft scope, or do you want to add that?
You can change it per my email I'm going to send you.
Okay.
Send a PDF back to Cheryl.
Okay, great.
And then secondly,
okay,
it's customary for a stenographer to come to these, just to have a transcript of all the comments. It's customary for scoping. It's done for DEIS hearings also. So if you can arrange for that.
Okay.
Is that obligatory?
It's customary. It's not really required for scoping, but it's good if you're going to have a lot of people to have a transcript, and it'll save Cheryl.
I recall it happening last time with HHR, but I think it was their call, we did not ask them to do that. They did it in an effort to create a.
Well, for the DEIS hearing, it's required.
Your call.
We can arrange for one, yeah.
Anything else, Aaron?
I think that's it.
Okay, when are we gonna post the DIEIS, the scoping document, to the website for public consumption? It's hard to comment if they don't have something to comment on.
Make these changes I'm going to ask them to. Tomorrow it can be put up.
Adam, did you hear that? I'd like to get this posted as soon as possible, the website, so.
Is that you, Kim?
It's me.
You want to coordinate?
To the webmaster here.
Okay.
Okay, so if I can put it up tomorrow, but I can't put it up till evening, because I have an obligation to.
Well, you have this one online already, on the agenda page. It's not changing. So it's there. But the official one that you're accepting and starting the clock on is going to be out tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, if you get it to, but I can't do it before tomorrow.
Tomorrow night is fine. Friday night, people are chomping at the bit to read scoping documents. That's Shabbat and scope. All right. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second. All right. Good night. Thank you, everyone.